This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
There are 71 days away from the NFL draft in Detroit, Michigan. Welcome into the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, a taste you can depend on. And you can depend on us to provide some investigation and education for the 2024 NFL draft. We've got Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus back in the building after a great week in Las Vegas. Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeomans with Chris Beam running everything in the back. Brian, how was Vegas?
It was very nice, and I want to give you guys a compliment. I was listening to the show, and I thought you guys did a hell of a job. Appreciate the way you guys kick names around, and again, you talk about educating people. Some of the most proudest moments, though, I had people on Radio Row come up to me and tell me how much they enjoy their draft show. And
That's
these
awesome.
are guys and gals from around the country, some national media members as well. They're like, you guys do a hell of a job on that draft show. And so I said, hey, we've got a great crew. We got a great fan base that follows us, that makes it all worthwhile. Every once in a while, you have to help your buddies here with their water bottles, even though they're retired military. Yeah, seeing things you'll never see.
Lacking right there. I was struggling.
No,
Thank
you're
you
good.
so much.
You don't struggle looking at them players, but yeah.
That's what matters here.
Yeah, that's what matters here. But cheers to, by the way, happy Fat Tuesday to everybody out there.
Oh, yeah.
Getting your Mardi Gras on. But, yeah, so proud of you guys. Great shows. And then also the people that coming up to me, national media, and saying, hey, you guys have a hell of a show there. So, again, thanks to them, and thanks to the people who follow us throughout the year.
No doubt about that. That's awesome. And it's odd I was thinking about it on the way to go get some coffee here a second ago, and I was like, man, Bryant hadn't been on for 3 shows. It's rare that you aren't on for that period of time, but we are glad to be back. Oh, I know.
I was losing my damn mind.
He hates it.
Trust
He's
me.
probably watched 50 players since he was last on this show because
He's ready to go.
had to get it going.
So
but we're
mad.
glad to have you back. Glad
Thank
to
you.
get you back safe, and we'll have Brian Bobby and Zach on through later shows as well as they make their return from Las Vegas too. All right. It's time to talk about Mike Zimmer. Of course, it's official now. He is your defensive coordinator in Dallas. There was always the Dan Quinn guys, right? There was always those guys that you look at that are the long, lanky, athletic, speedy defensive players. Does Mike Zimmer have a type of guy, Brian?
Yeah, I think what you're going to now you're going to realize with Mike is he's going to ask you for some press corners. He's going to ask you for some guys that have those sweet feet that we like to talk about, the ability to jam, to turn, to run, to carry. Those are all things that we're going to have to look about. We're going to have to talk about those ones and those 3 techniques inside. He's always had a good combination of those guys. He's played with some small linebackers in his day. He's played with some long linebackers in his day. He likes a safety that's going to play with some range. It's going to play with his eyes. A guy like a Harrison Smith who he had at Notre Dame, that type of a player, a physical player. Darren Woodson goes all the way back to the Super Bowl days. But, yeah, he is a certain kind of player. And talking to Zim, there's a couple of things that he's going to look at coming in. He's going to take a look at the staff. He's got to meet with the staff that's still currently here and kind of figure out, because the question I asked is, well, okay, are you going to bring a couple of guys in? There's some guys that have left. And he goes, well, I just got to meet with the guys that are currently here and kind of figure that out. Now, remember, Sharif Floyd played for him in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully Sharif will get that opportunity. But Mike is really excited about being here. I'm happy for him. But he is going to want players that are smart, tough, and get after the ball and are dependable. And that's something that he's always hung his hat on. And those are the types of defensive players. If you're seeing a guy on tape, we're all evaluating here, and this guy looks like, okay, football intelligence. Oh, wow, look at this guy get off blocks. Oh, look at this guy close. Oh, look at this guy tackle. That's a Mike Zimmer type player. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there, but Mike specifically likes those guys that have the football intelligence, but also on the outside could play a little press coverage too and run with those receivers.
When you talk about discipline, you talk about physicality. I think that's two things that any fan would love to have on this defense going forward. So
absolutely right.
I think it's interesting with how he attacks the draft process. And I mentioned this on Talking Cowboys, but somebody had asked me yesterday if with Mike Zimmer now in the building, does a guy like Tavondre Sweat become more of a big-time target, like a big physical defensive tackle who's wide? It's like, it doesn't matter if it's Mike Zimmer, Hans Zimmer, it doesn't matter. Defensive coordinator could be any of us at this table. You have to be able to solidify the middle of the spine of that defense. You got to get defensive tackle help. You got to get linebacker help. I'd be okay with a big safety as well. So being able to bring that physicality along with Mike Zimmer, I think that's going to be the biggest thing and what we look forward to as the draft process goes.
Yeah, Brian mentioned the IQ players and things like that. When you look at Zimmer's systems, adaptability is one of the best things you can put on your resume, correct? And one thing I noticed about him is that he plays the matchup game really well. But with the adaptability, he's not asking guys to do totally different things. You have to be able to do multiple things within your position and do them well and stick to them and do them well. So I think that's the most exciting thing about the hire to me is my guy Skywalker still did a great breakdown on just how much he is willing to say, okay, and we saw it the other days, like Spags was like, oh, okay, y'all gonna keep pressing this line? Well, the adaptability to be in game and to also play the matchup game is something that I'm really hoping for with the next coordinator, because I never understood how it works for coordinators that say, okay, well, this is what we are, this is what we're going to do. I mean, isn't it natural to want someone that can, roll with the punches and make changes on the fly? And so that's what I'm looking at with him coming in.
And Dan Quinn had an element of that to him as well, which is what made him a successful defensive coordinator. But there's nothing that Mike Zimmer has not seen in the NFL at this point. I mean, he's seen a little bit of everything, and there's an element to that. When it comes to Zimmer and the fit that he has here, is there something that he's going to immediately say, this is the top priority for this defense? Because the first year for Dan Quinn, back in 2021, he came in and said, we need edge rushers. We need a linebacker. We went and got Micah Parsons at that 12 spot, and they gave him that first-round pick. Do you think there's something similar that could happen with Zimmer coming in here?
Again, I don't think it's a Mike Zimmer specific question.
It's just whatever they got.
It's the middle of that defense. You
got
to go be able to address
totally
it.
agree.
Right. But I will say, like, when we talk about it, is going to be interesting to see how he handles it, because, with the Cowboys this past year, you could run up the middle, but the coverage in the middle of the field was a huge problem. So even when you're addressing things like linebacker, are you looking for linebackers that are able to drop in coverage and do more, or are you looking for, I'm coming down, stopping the run consistently? Like, there has to be a balance. So I do think it's going to play into some of his decision making as well, with the linebackers specifically.
I think if Mike Zimmer, and I haven't asked him this, but I guarantee in the time that he's been waiting for this job to materialize, that he sat down and watched your tape, and he has an idea of coming in here and saying, okay, when he meets with Will about the personnel, the first question he's probably going to ask is, what was your plan with Mozzie Smith? What was your plan with that? Why was it a 329-pound one technique, now a 293-pound three? What's your plan there? What was the thinking? And to your point, Nick, he's going to look at those linebackers too. He's going to realize, though, and Will's going to probably try to explain to him, and like, listen, we took a gamble. We play so much nickel and dime, and we gambled on going a little bit light at linebacker. We had injuries there that killed us. Dan had to play around it with with Bell and others. But Mike's going to okay, we're going to get linebackers here, right? And Will's going to go, yeah, we're going to get linebackers here. So, when you start to talk about Jerry Jones and all in, pushing chips in, I think free agency, and that's for a whole nother show. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys look at free agent linebackers.
Yeah.
And look
nice
at
ones out there.
Yeah, and there are. And that's the thing about it, is that if you get a free agent linebacker, one that could help you, like what you're talking about, Aisha, that's got adaptability, flexibility, run pass kind of a guy, then maybe you could go ahead and use the draft, which falls right into our neck of the woods here too, the linebackers that we all like. Maybe, okay, free agency, they get a guy. Now we could take our draft show and say, okay, they're probably not going to address this early, but here's some guys that we might see in that third, fourth round that we could go after. So there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of things that Mike is going to come in and say he's going to want to do, and it's up to Will to kind of figure out the direction that they, with the finances they have, but also the draft capital they have as well.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't know if we was going to break. Which room do you think benefits the most from his addition?
I would say the corners, just because you look at 2 All-Pros, or 3 if you want to throw in Stephon Gilmore if he's able to come back, and the ability for Trayvon Diggs and DaRon Bland to still elevate and get better. We haven't seen the peak from either of those 2 guys, I don't believe. So I would say that off rip. As far as the front 7, you would have to come back to me here in about 2-3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. What you got?
I think it's the secondary. That's Mike's area of expertise. He's going to. I think the cop-out answer is that the whole defense is going to benefit because Mike is a get-in-your-face type of coach, and it's going to be interesting to see because it's a different way of coaching than what these players have been receiving here the last 3 years under Dan Quinn. And that's something to me that I'm looking to see how that's going to affect some guys. I know interviewing Gilmore at the Super Bowl, and he was hopeful about coming back. And you talk to people in the organization. We talk to people all the time in this place. They'd like to have him back. It's you can't lowball the guy, and they know that. But he's the type of guy that when you really sit down and visit with him, I'm like, damn, this is a sharp guy.
Yeah.
And he cares. I mean, you could see that it bothered him. But he's played on championship teams before. He knows how to do it. So my overriding thing, I think the defense as a whole benefits, but one specific position I think is the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's just going to be the safety room overall. With the idea that, I mean, we interviewed Wanye Thomas on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, and he said, like, I want to be coached hard. Like, I'm ready. And he was excited about that.
Well, he's about to get coached hard.
But when you look at, we've talked about the Cowboys scheme and just some of the things they do. Zim, he likes to run some cover 2 and do some things like that. He also, too, likes to use a robber sometimes. So I'm excited to see Donovan Wilson do some more things closer to the line of scrimmage. Again, maybe Marquise Bell do some things closer to the line of scrimmage. I do think it's going to give guys like Malik Hooker the opportunity to continue to show off that sideline to sideline, but maybe give Wanye Thomas some opportunities to get back there and show off what he can do in coverage as well, side by side with Malik Hooker.
I'll say this, if the Cowboys decide that there's a little bit of flexibility that they feel like they have in the first round and they want to potentially get a defensive guy, Tyler Nubin would be very fun. And it might be fun.
Yeah, and Minnesota is a good player.
So
Absolutely.
Along those same lines, let's talk about press corners. Let's talk about guys that fit that mold on the outside because Brian said it a moment ago, when it comes to free agency, Dallas likes to fill some spots and then allow themselves BPA possibilities to a certain extent in the NFL draft. So if they go out and let's say they fill out linebacker, they fill out defensive tackle, are there any names either late first round or mid-round picks in terms of these press corners that you've watched so far that impress you?
We could start up top. Kool-Aid McKinstry is an interesting one out of Alabama, a corner talent. He's been there 3 years. He's coming out as a junior. I think when you look at Kool-Aid McKinstry and what he still has, he's still very raw. He's got that press man ability. He's going to jam you at the line. He's going to give you that physicality.
He's got the best name in the draft.
Yeah, he definitely does. Really violent hands. And I think with what you're looking for from a Mike Zimmer type of defensive back, this would be one. I've seen him in mock drafts go anywhere from 8 to 31. So, I mean, he's got a long range of where he could potentially go. If you're looking at 24 and you really like what Kool-Aid McKinstry brings to the table, that's certainly one you could look at. If you're looking second, third round, this is a guy I've talked about a little bit, TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. In my opinion, one of the he was the best defender, best secondary defender in the Big 12 this past season. He's got that press man ability, but he's also got some zone knacks as well. You look at his ball hawking ability, his ball tracking ability as a defensive back, being able to do that. Had a lot of interceptions this past season. Really like what he put together at Iowa State. Iowa State, they're actually really impressing me with their defensive back development over the course of the last couple of years. TJ Tampa, I think, is going to be a really good example of that. But I think he sneaks into the top 50 at some point. That's a guy that I really like out of Iowa State.
You should tag him.
Tag who?
Tampa.
TJ Tampa.
Oh, talk about him. Oh, I was like, what is tagging? No, I noticed that the change of direction and his ability to recover is just, it stands out immediately. He has a lot of calmness to his play, and that's what you're looking for a corner also, too. You're not looking for a guy that panics when the ball's in the air. He's able to, like you mentioned, just the tracking ability to locate it in the air and go for it. And the speed and size combo make it difficult for receivers to get separation on him. I liked his burst as well and the way he drives to the ball. He played wide receiver in high school, and you can see some of that in his play. We're starting to see that a lot. I mean, I know that guys kind of go back and forth in high school, but I do think it's hard not to notice that a lot of these gentlemen that played wide receiver late into high school, some of them in college, have those ball skills that stand out as well. Now, he's a player, and to your point, Iowa State is starting to come on with it because they have to. They looking across the pond, and, Iowa got...
across the cornfield.
Across the pond.
Y'all
there are no ponds in Iowa. What are we talking about?
You don't know that.
I know they do have them, and they frozen right now. So, well, yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, you both got the player wired. You really, really do. This guy, you talk about it. There's natural movement and balance to this guy's game. I mean, he does a really nice job of reading the quarterback and then playing the route, and he gets his hands on a lot of passes. The tracking of the ball, the size gives him an advantage here when he comes to carrying routes. The foot speed, the length to stay connected to the receiver, the fluid change of direction. He loves the challenge. You can tell of defending routes. He really, really does. And the tackling part, he's got some wrap up to him, but he's also got some of that block down where he throws his body at the ball carrier and kind of tries to chop him down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe he needs to wrap up a little bit, but his length makes him an ideal corner in this league. I'm glad you guys brought his name up.
Yeah.
Speaking of length, if you're looking for later round type press corners that you think could work in on this team, look at Ro Torrance out of Arizona State. He was a Shrine Bowl guy, 6'3", 200 pounds. So he's a big dude, but he was playing boundary corner for Arizona State. He jams him off the line. That's
physical in these practices. He was in one-on-ones.
Yeah,
and he was
absolutely
beating people at the line.
Physical
of
guy. The only downside is that's probably all you have with Ro Torrance as of now. Still really raw and really physical and just throwing his weight around in different directions. He's technical with his weight, but there's a lot of corner work that you would need to do with him.
There's a similar, probably a higher level prospect, but a similar scouting report. Raw athleticism, physicality, played a lot of zone in college, but he could maybe make the switch and be a good press man corner. What do you think about Quinyon Mitchell, corner from Toledo? Yeah. Do you think he can maybe fit that mold a little bit too?
Yes, I'm okay with Quinyon Mitchell being asked to do anything. After I saw him at the Senior Bowl, I'm okay with him being the first corner off the board. Would be shocked if he's further than the third corner off the board.
Wow.
I love what Quinyon Mitchell brings to the table. He's not this overwhelming guy that you look at with size and it's like, gosh, it's
more tenacity than it is physicality.
It's more technician. He is a technician. I had a DB trainer who's training some guys here in Frisco ask me what was so good about Quinyon Mitchell in Mobile. Why is he catching the attention of all these scouts? Why was that so big for him? I was like, there's not one technique thing that he does where you're like, I wish he would do that a little bit different. He is a technician.
Yeah.
Pure book. He is a textbook type guy, and when you see what he's done at Toledo, how he's been able to stack really good performances as well, being able to go up against really good talent. They play good talent up there in the MAC. I love Quinyon Mitchell. I'd be okay with him being asked to do anything.
How do you think he runs, Nick?
I probably.
I know it's a tough question because hopefully he'll train, but
4.5.
Yeah, when you watch the tape, it does look like a guy. I mean, he's the measurements I'm working off is 6 foot 196. I think is right where about he's as a player. That was the biggest question I had about him. You could watch the Northern Illinois game, and he gets 4 interceptions in the game. I mean, a couple of pick sixes and stuff like that. He looks taller on tape to me than the 6 foot. He's got some long features to his body. I love the way he attacks the ball. I love the reaction skills. The one note I put on I said, we'll be interested to see what his 40-yard dash time will be.
I've got a note on that real quick. Bruce Feldman from the Freaks List, he puts out his Freaks List. Dave Brugler's mentioned it a couple times throughout the Beast. He was a part of it, and he said he benched 225 pounds 21 times.
Right.
He said he squatted 44 times.
Right.
And he hit a top speed of 23.5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Said his 40 time he ran in the 4.3s twice for NFL scouts.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then, that would be great.
That's surprising.
I don't know if that's, and of course, this
That's
is
surprising.
just a report. We haven't seen combine numbers or anything yet. That's the official. But just based off of Bruce Feldman, which is a trusted source, he has him as a speedster.
He's got some mirroring skills. And I thought he was a little bit more straight line in the way he played. But the tight coverage is there, the sticky coverage is there for the player. He's a guy that Senior Bowl clearly helped him get on the radar even further than what he was at Toledo.
Talk about being inside of a hip pocket. He does that.
Yeah.
And he's got the ball tracking skills on the back end for deep routes.
Hey, the Cowboys love their Toledo defensive backs. They've had, we got one in the building here, Barry Church, that does a great job.
I think this gentleman can play the nickel. Jarian Jones, FSU. He's 6'1", 191.
Did you say Jerry Jones?
Jarian.
Jarian Jones.
Jarian, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I want to get it right. You're talking about jamming at the line, like he jams with intent.
Yeah.
It's not just for decoration. He's trying to redirect a receiver. He has a lot of flexibility in his lower half that allows him to stop and change direction quickly, and stay in front of receivers. He plays with a lot of discipline and poise, y'all. And also too, the zone awareness is there. We talk about the tracking ability.
Right.
He has that as well. I think he plays that line very well of being aggressive, but also being disciplined. And that's something that you look for in players, because when you look at him, you see how much he's jamming. You see how much he likes to be involved in man. You sometimes wonder, okay, is this guy going to get penalized in the future and things like that? No, you can see a whole bunch of that from his game. He's physical. He's very active. He's not afraid to tackle and run support, which is something that I think Zim would look for as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's also been very durable. And again, important as well. He hasn't played less than 8 games his whole college career. So he's played most of all his games. Even I think it was his freshman year, played 8 games to start. So I looking at the player, I like what he's able to do. And so when you look at okay, what is Zim maybe looking for? This is a guy that can play on the outside, but I do think he can do some nickel things, and we know how important that is in this league now. So.
Yeah.
You talked about getting a corner that Zimmer could improve with run support. You look at Trayvon Diggs and what he's. I think one of the bigger negatives you could take from his first couple of years in the league, or first few years in the league, is how he's able to defend the run and being physical in that sense. I think there's an opportunity for Mike Zimmer to come in and be able to develop that. We were talking about how he can develop certain areas. I think that's certainly one when you look at the corner room as well. But you had mentioned that. I wanted to throw that in.
Brian, you were talking about instincts too, and he seemingly has those instincts that you can bring to the NFL level and say, I trust you early, which is what Zimmer wants to do.
Absolutely. Did anybody look, talking about Florida State, did anybody look at the other corner, Renardo Green?
Yeah, well, he was also at Shrine Bowl, both of those guys.
Yeah.
I think I heard that, yeah.
Okay. Did we talk about him before?
I don't think so. If you want to bring him up, what you got?
The thing about him is, with me, to this guy, I was like, I saw a very physical, competitive, aggressive player. And I didn't think he was the type of player that was afraid to play you tight. He's going to compete for every ball that comes his direction. He could be a little grabby at times and drape his arm across the back of the receiver, when they run those inside routes. I would not say he's the most fluid moving player when it comes to the movement, but when he gets his hands on his receiver, it's really hard for them to get away from him, because he's got the ability to mirror when it's called for, the recovery and his footwork. I feel he's a better man player than zone. So I kind of brought him back in my mind because of thinking of guys 6 foot, 186 pounds. He's going to be one of those guys that has a feel for how to play, how to use the sideline to push his guy out when, in the air. So smart, competitive, completing his assignments. When I start thinking again, Zim, type of guy. Maybe that Renardo Green, Florida State, might be a guy that will catch their attention.
Kim Hart, cornerback, Notre Dame, had a good Senior Bowl showing. Man, listen, if you got a lot of wasted movement in your game as a receiver, he's gonna make you pay. Yeah, because you just doing stuff for decoration with him, because he's crazy technically sound to be as young as he is. He's hard to fool he mirrors well, like we talked about. He's physical and press and at the top of the route, so he is able to drive guys out to the outside. Now, I will say that he comes up in tackles. I think I do prefer him on the outside, though, as opposed to, working in it, because he understands how to use the boundary to his benefit and kind of work guys over to the side. So he stood out to me during the Senior Bowl. Nick, were you able to see him and see some of the things he was able to do?
Former receiver as well.
Yeah.
There's definitely those abilities. I like his press man ability. We're talking about it here. But yeah, at Senior Bowl, he backed all of that up for sure.
Where would you put him? Is he like a early day 3, late day 2 kind of guy?
Yeah, I think firmly day 2. I think
Firmly
day two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with what he did at the Senior Bowl, because he went up against some of these dogs out there, and they weren't able to get separation from him. I thought he was impressive. I'm jealous you got to see him up close in person.
Speaking of Iowa, where does this Cooper DeJean, where does he fall in?
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, he's a fascinating one. I know we talked about him a little bit last week as far as his secondary versatility, I think. But I think he's going to be an interesting one overall in this process, because you see him go as high. Again, it's kind of a Kool-Aid type instance where you see him go as high as like 15.
Yeah.
And then you can see him late second round.
Yeah.
So Combine's going to be huge for him.
Yeah, I was kind of feel like he's a right place at the right time prospect. Where it's like he seems to be, the ball kind of gets knocked in the air and he's standing there, and I just think he's got good instincts. I think he's got the awareness to make plays. I think he does a good job as a tackler too.
Yeah.
Here's where you always kind of feel like that maybe he could play another position or two, and but I mean the scheme kind of requires him to play sideways. So you really don't get a feel for how he really pedals, and because they're funneling everything into the middle of the field. But man, he's a pretty impressive player. Guy's a really good punt returner too.
Yeah, he is.
One of the better ones I've seen. So, man, I was just curious to where you guys had him. But you're right, because some of the mocks have him like super high, and then others have him like like you said, in the second round.
I think he's a top 20 player. I do. Yeah. When I look at him, I look at a lesser polished Christian Gonzalez from Oregon last year. Very similar skill set in the way that they've got length, they've got speed.
I really liked Gonzalez.
Gonzalez was a better player.
Yeah.
I would have Gonzalez as a top 10 prospect, but I don't think DeJean is that far off. I don't think he's that far off as a player. So if you're looking at a corner, like you said, a lot of it is subjective. Mm-hmm. It is what you like as a defense. Right. It's what you like as a scheme. He's going to fit a lot of those areas, so I think he's going to go top 20, top 25, something like that.
Yeah, and then the Iowa pedigree, it matters at this point.
It certainly does.
And, because you guys come in, you're like, oh, he's going to be fundamentally sound. He's going to have his things together. But I do think he's a good representation of the position and how he plays it. Yeah.
There's some press corners for you, though. If you're looking for Mike Zimmer, you're looking for something happening, moving forward.
There's a couple more we could have talked about, too.
Yeah, we can hit that. We've got a couple of draft shows between now and the draft.
Absolutely.
We'll hit it then. When we come back, we're taking your questions. Twitter on the 20 comes up right after this.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
Hi, I'm Danny McCray, Dallas Cowboys alumni player here with Smoothie King. And Smoothie King wants to ask you, what's that sound? That's the sound of us magically transforming our smoothie bowls into 2 new decadent flavors. Dig into a cool acai or pitaya bowl, handcrafted with crunchy, purely Elizabeth granola, fresh strawberries, and finished with a velvety chocolate hazelnut drizzle. Perfect for breakfast, lunch, or anytime you want to munch. And that's the sound of you making them disappear. Smoothie bowls, now in 2 new decadent flavors. Only at Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite, a taste you can depend on. We've got Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans, and Chris Beam's about to hit that sounder button because it's time for some
Twitter on the 20.
Darn right it is. All right, Matthew asked Gabe Hall out of Baylor. Can he play one technique in Zimmer's system? Of course, you're talking about improving the size, improving the spine of that defense. Can Gabe Hall do something like that?
Yeah, so I think first we need to talk about Gabe Hall a little bit more. 6'6", pushing 300 pounds, so a tall guy there in the middle. He was somebody that overwhelmed everybody physically at the Senior Bowl.
What is with the Big 12 in these just manhandled mountains?
Are
of
they getting
defensive
bigger?
tackles?
And that's something I want to talk about. It's kind of a trend that we're seeing from the high school to college ranks too. And you see this big, tall guy here in the interior. For those for the audio only, we got Gabe Hall here on film, but he's physical. He's able to get off the line quick. I like him more as a 3-tech. I'm not a huge fan of bringing him in as a 1, because if you're bringing him in as a 1, you're going to have to put weight on him. That is a fact. You're going to have to put at least 30, 35 pounds. I want to keep him at the weight that he's at right now, wherever team he goes, put him at 3-tech, and let him operate with a little bit more fluidity and a little bit more athleticism. I think that'll help him in his game long term. But man, once he's able to shut his block, he's able to create some violent things in the backfield. I like Gabe Hall.
You know, it's funny. You see a guy that's 6'6" and wearing number 95. Who do you think of? David Irving.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Remember
fair.
David Irving?
that.
We couldn't figure out is he?
Where is he at?
He was ahead of his time.
But yeah, he was definitely the Beatles. He was. It's so funny because I'm going to be fishing one day at my lake, and someone's going to ask me, "Who's the best player you ever saw that just kind of went by the wayside?" And David Irving's going to be my guy because he could play like 18 plays and have 6 tackles in those 18 plays and force a fumble. But yeah, there's a guy, like you said, probably a little bit more of that 3 technique look than playing inside. But man, I'll tell you what, that length is pretty impressive with the way that he's kind of been able to get rid of those blockers and then get over to that football.
Do you guys remember Jerry Tillery in the 2019 draft? Was a first-round pick for the Raiders. It's similar vibes here as far as the length and what he's able to do with it. Tillery, he had a couple of really good years in Vegas, but kind of phased out after that. I think he's with the Chargers now. But with Gabe Hall, I really like what he brings as a 3-tech type of defensive lineman. You look at the size that he has.
Got some quickness there.
He's got that explosiveness off the line. Can he line up over center, as you see right here?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I want him to be able to focus on a 3-tech type situation.
As a Waco, Texas native myself, my opinion, I say he was the best player other than Ika on that defense for Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears. But I want to ask the Baylor Bear himself, Chris Beam in the back. What did you think whenever you were watching him play this year? If he's able to do it, he may be running technical stuff.
He's mad at you because you're actually from Hewitt, not Waco.
He was a guy that flashed.
I was born in Waco. Come on now.
He definitely flashed, but I mean, Baylor was terrible this year. Let's be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's said like a true Baylor Bear. Love it. All right. Next question coming up. If you could have a Micah-like rookie season from one player in this draft class, what position would you want it to be in, and why? Calvin asked that question.
Run that back.
If you wanted a Micah-like rookie season, just an explosive rookie season from one player in this draft class, what position would you want that player to play?
Wow, that's an interesting one. Does offensive line count?
Sure.
Then yeah, offensive line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd love for like somebody to play center, come in here and
be an all-pro,
and be an all-pro right off the jump. Yeah, I think linebacker's another position too. You know, I know that a lot of people are kind of throwing these different linebackers. Aisha and I were walking in. We were talking about Colson from Michigan, and every time you talk about somebody from Michigan, everybody kind of just turns the radio for sure. But if you could give me a center, a linebacker, I would absolutely, or an offense. I could say maybe a tackle. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with Tyron Smith in that situation, or we'll see what happens with the guys that are currently on the roster. But man, if you're going to give me one, give me a center that play at a very, very high level.
Yeah, if we're talking Micah rookie year, so we were surprised. It was like, surprise, he could play DN.
Oh yeah.
Listen, honey, I would love a surprise. Oh, he can really play running back, and we can run the ball. It's not.
So you want an Ezekiel Elliott type rookie season?
No. I mean, Micah's rookie year was when you mention his rookie year, I look at it more of the surprise of him being able to have that flex at DN. So for me, I'm like, okay, if you have a running back that comes in here, maybe they can add something different to your run, even if it's like a third down guy or a guy that can, like, I want to see if there's a gentleman that can come in here and affect the run game, because I think that's going to be important moving forward for this team. So
you look what young fresh legs did for Detroit and what they were able to do.
Talk about it and the balance they had, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Maybe
Kansas City too, last couple of years.
Yeah, maybe you're not picking super high, like you just mentioned, Kansas City with Pacheco. Like, maybe you're not picking super duper high for running back, but if you can have a guy that comes in here and he's a surprise or he's a good addition to what you do offensively, I think that means you're moving in the right direction as an offense, because you need to be able to tote the rock.
Matt asked kind of along the same questions as you were alluding to with Micah. Are there any players that could be asked to switch positions based off of where they're going? We talked about position flex a couple shows last week, but I'll start with you, Brian. Anybody on your list so far that you could see, hey, maybe they'll end up switching positions moving forward?
I haven't thought about it that way.
I have one.
You have one?
I think so.
Because I was talking about the Iowa corner.
Yeah.
Or I thought he might be a safety.
Safety.
To be honest with you, I thought that might be a better, with the ball skills and the range and his tackling ability. I kind of thought that maybe that, but I haven't really thought about.
He was a safety prospect. Iowa converted him to.
I mean, there's these offensive linemen. We've kind of talked about a Graham Barton. Is that? I mean, that's a guy that's played tackle, guard. He was a left tackle at Duke. Is that a guy that's now? Would that guy be your center? I think that we kind of agree that would be a direction that we would go for there. But that's really the only guys that I was kind of thinking about right now.
That was a good question that I felt like Nick asked a lot of the gentlemen at the Shrine Bowl was, if you could switch, do you think you could? And a lot of the guys said, because it's just kind of what happens sometimes in this league, especially he asked a lot of the corner players if they're going to. But when you talk about somebody I think that somebody might look at as a safety, he was recruited as a safety. Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama.
Yeah.
6 foot, 196. I feel like people could look at his ranginess and how long he is and things like that and see maybe they see a safety or
like a Brian Branch from
bring him
last
back to safety. Yeah. I mean, he
had a great rookie year too.
Yeah. He has it's the zone discipline and balance and patience that I think will allow him to do that. But he also can go from hash to hash and move people out the way. He has a really strong recovery speed and he's good in press as well. So maybe Terrion Arnold is someone that maybe people look at as a safety.
I did. That's actually a really good one. I was looking at my linebackers and I was thinking, has anybody studied Kalen DeLoach from Florida State? Mm-mm. Kalen DeLoach is 6'1". He's 215 pounds. Wears number 4 at Florida State. And he's a guy that's a linebacker at Florida State. And I wonder at 6'1", 215 if they're going to have to move him as a safety or a sub-package player. Mm-hmm. This guy gets after the ball, and I was just, we need to see, because at 6'1", 215, how about Beamer having some highlights for you right here? Pew, pew, pew. But this kid's a hell of a player. But again, that size will be a problem playing as a linebacker. But man, when you study him play, this is against Boston College right here. I mean, he's more than willing to step up and make tackles, make plays. But I just don't know. Could it be very much like what we deal with Bell here, because of the size and stuff like that? But he might be that guy that is, like I said, strong safety, down in the box, sub player that you could put him in some in coverage because you watch him play. He plays really, really well in space too. So maybe you have some he's on the outside here. I'm Beam coming up with these great highlights for you. But yeah, on the blitz right here. Look at the close right there. Look at that burst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's against Clemson. So there you go. Creating turnovers, getting the ball, and then a little scoop and score action there for the Seminoles.
Hate to see that on my guy, Cade Klubnik. But yeah.
Nick, are you is Javon Bullard from Georgia a safety or a corner?
I like him more as a safety. I want to keep him where he's at. He does have that corner type ability though, and they stepped him up at nickel many times this past season.
That's why I was asking.
But I think with his range, with his ability to kind of be able to cover that from the defensive backfield, have everything in front of him, that's what I would want. And I've questioned what his speed will look like at the combine a couple of times on this show. With that in mind, I'd like to keep him at safety.
Has anybody seen Kalen? Speaking of Bullock, Kalen Bullock from USC?
Yeah.
Have you seen? Okay, he's 6'3", he's 190 pounds, and he plays as a free safety. He makes a lot of plays with the ball in the air, and so I was kind of wondering, well, maybe here's a corner. I'm trying to find that Brian Branch kind of player, the guy that can play safety but can also potentially play in the slot and cover and blitz and do some things. So there's guys just because of some of the height and weight. But Kalen Bullock, he's like I say, 6'3", 190. He wears number 7 at USC. Might be a guy that you want to take care of because my final note on him was his coverage skills are what are going to get him drafted in the league, along with his ability to read routes. So I wonder if he's a safety that's probably should be playing corner or should be playing more as a nickel.
Yeah. All right, next question. This one comes from JP. He says, thoughts on Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, the wide receiver, big playability. Where would you have to draft him, and how could he fit into your offense if you wanted to attack wide receiver?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's one that I spent a lot of time watching at Senior Bowl. First day, he had a very, very rough day. I think if you're looking at one of the bigger fallers from the Senior Bowl, you're looking at Xavier Legette, but I'm not out on him. What he was able to do at South Carolina this past season, he's a big play guy that you can get the ball in space to, and he will take off. He'll go, and he'll be able to do it. I compared him to Cordero Patterson in that same sense because he can also work some things out of the backfield with his build. I think there's a lot of different things you can do in an offense with Xavier Legette, and it makes him an intriguing type of weapon. What I put in my notes here after Senior Bowl, struggled at Senior Bowl until stock fall, but the long speed and physicality still make him a legit offensive weapon out of the backfield and in the receiving game. So I like Legette. I think he probably slipped to late third round. He's probably a late day 2 option now. But if you're looking for a big beefy receiver that you want to bring in and have some versatility with, 6'1", 223 pounds, that's a guy you can have.
Yeah, physical at the catch point. I mean, he's very physical through his routes as well. The concentration is there, the way he fights through trash. But yeah, when you mentioned the separation and some of that stuff, maybe that's something that gives people pause. But I think I know that Rashee Rice isn't as big as him, but we've been there, done that with thinking that guys, just because they don't separate a whole bunch, they can't play the game. Found out already. He just won a Super Bowl.
How does he run after catch?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We found that out.
Does he have any traits like what Deebo Samuel does?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Another South Carolina.
It's really just like he's just.
Can you hand him the ball? Can you move him around? You think?
Yeah, it's the temperament. Yeah, he has the temperament to do those things. He has the temperament. I put down. He's that's my ball. That's the type of player he is. But to your point, it's not like you're not gonna get super sharp route running and stuff from him consistently. But if you get the ball in his hands, he's gonna make something happen.
He's got the Debo thighs too.
When you
gotta have that as a backfield.
Yeah, when you say that he's 6, I haven't seen the player, but when you say 6'1" and you say 223, I start to think of. Running back kind of build.
Yep.
But if run after catch and all that's really good, maybe you have a similar type player that someone will find ways to use him in the backfield as well.
There's a play on his film. I forget who they're playing, but they're lining up 25-yard line, starting a drive, and it's just a simple crosser over the middle, and he explodes out of there, gets out quick, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Long speed is incredible. I think he's a weapon that you can definitely use in a lot of different ways at the next level.
There you go. All right. Along with Xavier Legette, I've got a couple names I want to hit when we come back, and it's based off of a tweet from our very own Nick Harris. We're going to talk about that here in a couple of moments when we come back with more of the Draft Show right after this.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Hi, I'm Danny McCray, Dallas Cowboys alumni player here with Smoothie King. And Smoothie King wants to ask you, what's that sound? That's the sound of us magically transforming our smoothie bowls into 2 new decadent flavors. Dig into a cool acai or pitaya bowl, handcrafted with crunchy, purely Elizabeth granola, fresh strawberries, and finished with a velvety chocolate hazelnut drizzle. Perfect for breakfast, lunch, or anytime you want to munch. And that's the sound of you making them disappear. Smoothie bowls, now in 2 new decadent flavors. Only at Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite. Glad you're with us here on this Tuesday. Again, we'll be back on Thursday, 11 a.m. Central, to continue breaking down this 2024 draft class. But I think it's time to break down one of Nick Harris's best tweets of the week, in my opinion.
Not a good thing to do.
And we're going to break it down player by player, and we're going to see if we like this. So on, was this Friday? I think it was Friday-ish, Thursday or Friday. Nick asked for some NFL draft questions. He wanted to answer some questions on Twitter. Joseph Hoyt out of Texas, LoneStarLife.com says, give a position and player comp for every member of the draft show.
Oh, my God.
And Nick Harris responded. And he provided a position and player comp for every person in the draft
With
show.
a little trait.
With a little bit of why he thought that was the case. So we're going to start things off with Chris Beam in the back. He said Isaiah Davis, running back out of South Dakota State, said, don't forget about the FCS/producers. Why did that one work out for you?
Yeah, Beam's got the Isaiah Davis film ready to go. Look at these long legs from Isaiah Davis. This is a guy who's had 1,400-plus yards in each of the last 2 seasons. A really productive runner for the back-to-back national champions. You look at what they were able to do offensively, it ran straight through Isaiah Davis. This is a guy that will perform at the next level. He will be a running back on a team next year that you will want to pick up on your fantasy team type of guy. I mean, this is, I really like Isaiah Davis. This is a sneaker running back that you can get in the 4th round, 4th, 5th round, and he'll have production the day he steps on a
Boy, he is.
team.
He's very high cut, as we'd say in the scouting world. Long legs, short upper body.
Yep.
Yeah, very high cut.
Long legs.
Yeah.
Long legs.
Yep.
He got an invite to the Senior Bowl, right?
Shrine. Gosh, I don't remember. I saw him at one
I
of
mix
those.
them all up, too.
I saw
He
him at
was in
of
one
those.
of the All-Star games. There was a lot of Jackrabbits in Frisco, so I just kind of relied on that. But, yeah, he's fun, and that was Chris Beam's comp.
Yeah,
overall.
physical guys.
Wow, Beam just ran over. Just ran over the guy, the .com guy at the Buccaneers.
Yeah, dude, easy money. I can't wait for draft day, and we're going to take all these comps, and we're going to say, Beam just went off the board. Aisha just went off the board. Let's talk about Aisha. Cornerback, Chris Abrams-Drain, scrappy and assertive was the reason why Nick Harris gave that comp. You guys have talked about him a little bit out of Missouri, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's gonna come on the field, and you're not gonna think that he's the most imposing corner in the world. And then he's gonna make you feel you. And he's really strong. I really like what he does in coverage. I gave him a lot of flack early in this draft show. No, I saw him at Senior Bowl, and I understood his abilities a little bit more. No, come on now. When I understood his abilities a little bit more, I kind of fell in love with the prospect a little bit more. I still think he's. I teeter with late day 2, early day 3 with him, just because I think there's a lot that he'll give up in big play opportunities. But I love Chris Abrams-Strain from a scrappiness standpoint.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
I think you got her nailed here.
Yeah, we talked about Missouri and what they're doing up there, putting together a good program.
Yeah. Here it is, Aisha. Nice low back pedal, powerful hands to disrupt receivers early in route.
Please.
Can get under and turn and run in press coverage. Gotta love this. Can flip the hips, run downfield, quick, surprisingly powerful. Is an explosive athlete.
Yeah.
Ability to break on the ball. The close is phenomenal on this guy. And rare ball skills. He puts himself in position to make plays on the ball. He finds it. He plays with awareness. There's instincts when facing, when he has action in zone coverage and stuff like that. And he's not afraid to tackle. I mean, he does it in a variety of ways the way this guy plays. So
did you worry about the big play, giving up the big play? It's not that he did it at Missouri necessarily so much. It's his traits and what he does, instincts, I would say.
Yeah.
It's his instincts that allow it at the NFL level that I think could not translate well.
Yeah.
He doesn't flip those hips as fluidly as I would love him.
Yeah, I think that, to me, like to say, if you watch the LSU game, because LSU did a nice job of throwing the ball that game, and it was a little bit of a problem. I think because of some of the things you're talking about, I think it's just maybe his size, because he's not the biggest guy weight wise. It's like a 178-pound guy. We're doing one of those
5'11", 178.
Yeah.
So you really went deep into this comp.
I gave these like 5 minutes of thought.
Whatever. Yeah, each. We'll see. Cooper Beebe, guard out of Kansas State, said that's the man, and he comped that to Zach Wolchuk. He said Zach Wolchuk is Cooper Beebe.
Just the man. And also Zach loves Cooper, so that was the
He
easiest
does. That's a good one.
That was the easiest one to throw in. It was perfect.
And we talked a lot about Cooper Beebe in one of the previous shows.
Yeah.
Not this past week, but the week before. So if you haven't listened to that yet, you can go back and listen to it.
He's got an old school build to him, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why I think I like. He's just a mauler.
I mean, I would say the temperament is old school too.
Yeah,
man.
Push, shove, knock guys down. Anybody gets in his way, just kind of knocks him down.
That's what Wolchuk did to me in the hallway the other day. I just turned the corner and he hit me, and I was on the floor.
Yeah.
Pancake block. Yeah. That's what happened. This one's a good one. Brian Broaddus is Jackson Powers Johnson, the Oregon center. He said he's a tone setter.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I wish I had this kind of rare athletic traits. I would have played a lot more at LSU instead of just been a snapper. This guy's got the right attitude about it. And there's a mean, nasty streak to his game. We've talked about him. He has a problem for defenders to deal with in space because he's got some of that road grader mentality to him, the foot speed, the movement, very good angles, getting second level. The toughness is just so impressive with this guy. And you don't see him making busts assignments, with guys when they run twists. He's got everything kind of in front of him, keeps in front of him. He's not fooled. And you can see he loves to play the game. And that's, I think, the most important thing about him.
Yeah, my favorite part about him is just the fact that you can have a toolbox. Boy, you better bring every single one you have, because his ability to counter with his hands is so impressive to me, and the way he's able to recover. He's not beat often. Let's just keep it a buck. He's not beat often, but the minute that a DN or somebody thinks that he's beat, he's like, oh, no. Just kidding.
You thought.
Yeah, it's the finishing blocks as well, is that because that's one thing I noticed about this, a lot of the guys in this class, is I find myself being like, finish the block. Just, I need another more second, just a tick longer, and hold that block up. And this guy is so sturdy and dependable as well.
I went back and watched my comps for, not comps, but really rating and scouting report for Tyler Linderbaum back a couple drafts ago. This is my 5th year of doing pure rankings and scouting reports for the draft show and DallasCowboys.com. If I had to combine all 5 draft classes, Tyler Linderbaum would be my number 1 center. Jackson Powers Johnson would be my number 2 out of
I
all
think
of
that
those
could
draft
change
classes.
by the end of the draft process.
And you think it could flip?
I think it could.
It's not very far off. I would probably put Linderbaum just a little bit of ahead of what I have currently for Jackson Powers Johnson. You're right. By the end of it all, I could flip it, but right now those are 1, 2. And that's a compliment in itself, is the fact that that's 5 years of draft classes. And if you're saying this guy is that good to where Tyler Linderbaum's a multiple Pro Bowler by this point, I think you've got something working in the right direction. And that's exactly what Jackson Powers Johnson is.
That's funny you mentioned that, because along with the that same kind of questions that I was answering back on Friday, somebody had asked me about the comparison between Tyler Linderbaum and Jackson Powers Johnson. And gosh, I'm trying to find it. The question wasn't Tyler Linderbaum a better center prospect than Jackson Powers Johnson, and he went pick 25? What makes you question JPJ goes even earlier than him? And I was like, to be fair, I think we're all starting to bridge into Linderbaum hype for JPJ. It's just happened much faster.
Okay.
Because with Linderbaum, I mean, he was at Iowa. You had that going into his last season, and he's like, okay, this is the center prospect. And Jackson Powers Johnson, I feel like, has really made all his money in the last month.
Yeah.
It's really stacking up for him just much quicker. And you look at the age difference, I think, as well. I think that's going to make JPJ such a more interesting prospect at the end of the day. Does he end up going higher than 25? I think so. I think he'd be shocked if he.
Did you pick somebody for yourself?
So I did. I picked Jonathan Brooks, first-year starter, and doesn't really know what the future holds, because I choose what I eat for dinner like 5 minutes before every night. So
I was thinking. Have you guys
coming off of an ACL surgery?
Yeah. First-year starter doesn't really know what's going on. You know.
I was thinking. I was thinking of you maybe as Lad McConkey.
I'll take it.
That's a good one.
From Georgia.
I've even gotten to
Scrappy.
talk about him.
Yeah, this guy's played a ton of big games in his career, and he shows up well. He's a fluid moving athlete. He's slippery side to his game. He's one of the best route runners I've studied in this draft.
Technician.
He is
awesome at
deceptive with his speed, with a burst. You would not think he's going anywhere with the ball. Then the next thing you know, he's off to the races. He's just one of those types of guys. He's a short area quickness player. He can create opportunities at different levels of the defense. I mentioned about the routes, good quickness off the line. He can escape. He catches the ball with ease. If it's anywhere near him, he's going to make the play. And he's just got toughness. There's a willingness to go get it. And he's skilled when finding the ball. This is a great job of tracking, attacking. One of the best in the country when it comes to receiving touchdowns and first downs.
That's funny that you picked it for him, because I actually said one of the best.
This guy's one of my favorite players.
Yeah,
I
think he's one of the best at the top of the route that I've seen.
Yeah.
And transition from top speed and being able to stop on a dime with good releases. The separation he's able to create consistently is very impressive. So he has a good feel for the position. You can see that it's not too fast for him. Things seem like they're slowed down for him.
If you like Puka Nacua, you'll like this guy.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And he gave people the business at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, almost
he doesn't care who lines up across from him. He is going to run a route that's going to corkscrew somebody into the ground.
Was he on the all-practice team? I want to say he was.
I'm sure he was voted. Yeah, that was
somebody had to be.
Yeah, the defensive backs I think voted him that. It's usually the opposite to who you're playing against. Yeah.
By the way, the comp that he had for me was Xavier Legette, who we just broke down in the previous segment. He was worried about his size. He was worried about translating to the next level. I appreciate you.
No, I said big play guy, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You said big play.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's what it is. But
I'm glad we finally brought up Lad McConkey. I feel like it's overdue.
It's overdue.
I tell you what, he's a lot of fun to watch on tape. He's not hard to find. He just every time the quarterback would just drop back and he needs a big play, he's going to throw it to 84.
We always talk about those guys that you're watching one player and the other guys show up. You're watching Brock Bowers tear up defenses in the SEC, and then every couple plays you start seeing 84 flash across the screen. You're like, holy cow.
It's even fun when they put 84 and 19 on the same side of the field, and they're running routes for each other.
It's chaos. But just the stopping guys. It's just crazy.
Can we talk about Brock Bowers really quick and how he's going to be under the 50th percentile for basically every single tight end measurement and measurable that you could ask.
Do you hate Brock Bowers?
No. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential concern with Brock Bowers. Okay. There was a picture that had got posted over the weekend at Super Bowl weekend, and it was him standing next to Gronk, and
it looked like a totally different player, didn't it?
Yeah, Brock looked like he was like a selling car insurance.
Yeah.
So it's different. There's definitely a difference there. I mean, he is that shorter, stockier guy. Everyone knows that. He sacrifices that size for his speed because he really does have that
speed and verticality.
Absolutely,
and the balance.
And I've seen some mocks slip him to as far back as 15. I've seen him go as high as number 5 overall. I think it's an interesting prospect for sure, but I don't know if we're having this conversation about Brock Bowers as a day one type of guy that can walk onto an NFL team and contribute immediately. I don't know about that. Do I think eventually? Absolutely. This is a dynamic offensive weapon. You see what he's done for Georgia. I trust in Brock Bowers, but I think there's going to have to be a little bit more size added there. I really do.
You think so?
If he gets to your spot, you taking him?
The versatility and the uniqueness of the player does make you want to be like, because he can do so many different things. It was different. It would be different to me if he was just a straight up tight end and whatever the case may be. This dude's catch out the backfield.
He's a ball catcher.
Take him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I have to.
I mean, like that CeeDee Lamb pick.
Yeah, that would be a CeeDee Lamb scenario.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think like, we're talking about centers and we're talking about, all these other positions.
Can I trade Jake Ferguson if I take him?
Man.
You can't afford to. The world?
What?
I don't think you can afford to get rid of Jake Ferguson.
If you're drafting a first-round tight end, you got to trade somebody. You're trading Schoonmaker. Nobody's going to take Schoonmaker for anything close to what you want. Ferguson's value's high right now. I'm not saying I would want to do this. Let's get that straight.
Okay, let me ask you this. Would he be your best player on your board if he got to you?
At 24?
Yeah.
Probably.
He might be. Like, he can do a lot. But also, too,
I think
take
him and figure it out later.
You guys like Pitts better from Atlanta? Florida?
As a prospect, I think so. But
Aisha's liking this Georgia guy.
I like him. I think if he runs a good 40,
I'm with you.
Did you have Pitts higher?
Not care no more.
Pitts was one of my top guys.
He was,
but you watch this kid play. I think Aisha's right about
well,
this.
Well, because he's not. But it would be different when you talk about the size. He's up for the task in blocking.
Yeah.
He's not even though I think that the explosiveness and the way that he works through things is gonna stand out to people. And he can get up at the second level as well, but he can cut in the open field.
Yeah.
Dog. He could be a weapon. It depends on what. I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. It comes from a football family. Comes from an athletic family. Period. So he knows what the moment calls for.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm out on Brock Bowers. I want the record.
Oh, we know that. We're not fussing at you.
If he's available at 24,
I want the record to show I'm not actually trying to trade Jake Ferguson. I love Jake Ferguson.
I heard what you said, Kyle.
No, you stop it.
We heard what you said.
Xavier,
no question.
Come on now. All right, that's it for us today on the Draft Show. We'll be back on Thursday, continuing to break down draft prospects with more here presented by Miller Lite. For Chris Beam in the back, for Nick Harris, Brian Brodish, Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Draft Show. We'll see you on Thursday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?